Hello and welcome to Riddle and Rule, where I try to help out with the understanding and application of rules for Dungeons & Dragons in a fun and light way in small videos that are easy for you to watch and interact with. I've got a couple new projects I want to talk about, and today my focus is on how I believe that long rests are kind of ruining the realism of D&D. They make healers feel almost meaningless, and there are some ways that DMs are even making this worse without knowing it. Now, you may be running long rests as written in D&D and having no issues with it whatsoever, and that is totally fine. I don't want to say that it is not right or not good for anyone. For my games, I feel like it leaves me lacking, and there's some parts of it that I just think are unhelpful, and there could be something better. Now, before I get into that, first I want to let you know that me and a friend of mine are coming out with a new project on this channel that I think is very much worth sticking around for and looking for. I'm calling it the DM Forge, and me and a friend are going to be collaboratively homebrewing and story writing together to then produce hard copy modules that you can have, well, soft copy modules, I guess, that you can have and download to use, that we're going to keep writing and publishing together, and you're going to see our brainstorming processes and sessions at work through this series. And so if that sounds interesting to you, stick around on Riddle and Rule, because that is where we'll be posting this on a playlist labeled DM Forge. Now, I've got one other thing I want to cover, and that is this. I had the wonderful, wonderful privilege to get to play a Kickstarter D&D module, and I want to talk to you about it and show some of it to you right now. The module is called the Hedge Maze of the Crescent Queen. This module was written by Bryce at LatecomerGames, and I was blown away by, one, his writing talent, and two, I got to play under him as a DM, and to see his ability to bring this module to life, his creation, his personality coming out through it was an absolute joy for me. What comes in this module is a ton of NPCs, magical items, combat encounters, this entire map and system of this hedge maze, and all of the lore associated with this deadly and trepidatious jaunt into the Fey Wild. I will say what I particularly loved about the content and interacting with this story was the NPCs and the monsters that Bryce has created as part of this. You get a diverse array of creatures that are supplied in this module, and all of the NPCs come with quotes and personalities and how easy or hard they are to work with, and what types of deals that they might be trying to make and twist with your party as you're playing with them. It makes playing and leading these NPCs really easy and fun to do, and they're memorable and great for players to interact with. I'm going to be posting some shorts from this time of playing this on this channel, and if you want to see the full version of us playing, you can go over to King Leo D&D, and then also I'm going to be posting me running this story with a couple of my friends on this channel and King Leo D&D coming up in the next week. So if you're interested in this module, want to check it out, you should stick around for that content, but also right there is a link in my description that you should click so that you can check out this Kickstarter and follow it so that you can see on the 24th, just coming up in 12 days, when this publishes, how you can support and how you can get your hands on a copy of this book. All right, let's throw it down and let's get into it. A cozy bed shouldn't be stronger than a cleric. That is my hot take, that is my point. And in 5th edition, 8 hours of rest fully restores all hit points and abilities and spells, no matter how injured or exhausted a character was. This drives me crazy. Like, I hate when I put in the work to try to make a day of adventuring in D&D feel realistic, feel challenging, feel like that there is real risk and hardship throughout the day, as well as amazing rewards for doing good work. And then all of that just gets a hard reset after 8 hours of sleep. All right, start the day brand new.
I got better.
Meanwhile, a cleric's Cure Wounds can use a valuable spell slot and only heals a fraction of a character's hit points. Why even have a healer when a nap can be so infinitely better? That's my question. A character on death's door should not be fully refreshed by a bedtime tea and a warm blanket at a good bed in an inn. In older editions, HP loss really mattered, and it persisted across multiple nights unless magical healing was used. There, you then see magical healing as the more powerful option than just laying down for 8 hours. Now, a creature can be stabbed, burned, and maimed and wake up good as new. What I feel like this does is I feel like it removes any sense of danger unless death happens because the consequence of any damage only lasts until the end of a long rest. There's no attrition, there's no lasting effect, there's no struggle. D&D assumes that we're going to put that emphasis and highlight into our games if it matters to us. And so I think what happens in the D&D books is that they assume that a party is going to go through 3 to 5 encounters a day before long resting, but most DMs actually only end up running 1 to 2 fights per day. And this creates a weird tension with the assumed system and what the reality is at the end of the day. And what I see on Reddit boards and YouTube comments and the way dungeon masters try to put this into practice is that every fight becomes a deadly boss fight. Since players always have full resources and know that they're going to get another long rest after 1 to 2 fights, DMs feel like they need to make every encounter a life or death struggle. And then this leads to fights that are artificially deadly rather than being part of an endurance-based adventuring day. So then resource management ends up completely ignored, and what you see in older editions is that you had to stretch your spell slots out, and your healing, and your hit points over multiple encounters. There was this economy to it where there was more inherent risk. But now it feels like you can just burn everything in one fight, and know you'll be back to full after an 8-hour rest. I feel like adventuring is supposed to be grueling, not an easy, fantastical spa day. Again, in older editions, this long rest was the beginning of recovery and not just a one-time magical reset button. And I feel like adventurers are supposed to be worn down a bit over time, but 5e just lets them walk into each day like they just came back from that weekend retreat. I feel like a serious wound should take days or magical intervention to fully heal and not just get an 8-hour reset on that too. I want to see and feel lingering impacts to what a day of adventuring entails. And I feel like just the 8-hour long rest full reset is so counter to that. This is why I struggle with it. This is why I do not like it. Another implication of this is that healing magic and potions compared to sleeping are almost useless. Now the only hit point that matters is your last hit point if you're up or down, and then you heal all the way back up to normal. So clerics used to feel crucial because they were the source of major healing. Their healing was what kept the party going across multiple fights, but now it's just take a nap, lay down, and then you're good to go. The bulk of your healing comes from sleeping instead of the bulk of your healing coming from healers. So then healing potions are almost worthless outside of combat because you can always just lay down and get that healing for free. Why would you waste gold or spell slots when a rest can just fix everything? And that puts us DMs in kind of an awkward situation. If we want more realism, we've got to build out homebrew rules, and we feel like we're trying to be these like sticklers and make D&D harder. But that's just because 5e is so generous with healing that it undercuts any sense of danger or tension. And so we're forced to do things like a long rest only regaining half of your hit points, or requiring multiple days of rest for a full recovery. If we want to, we have to try to implement rules for lingering wounds or exhaustion for severe injuries. We can do that, I suppose. And then we maybe try to limit long rests unless the party is truly in a safe place. Like maybe you then say, no, you can't really long rest because you're in this dungeon. And it's so like nitpicky and small, and it feels weird to try to build around this rule set that I feel is so generous. If these kinds of rules are necessary just to make the game feel grounded, I think to me, it proves that this system is just a little bit broken on what sleeping should do compared to magical healing. The way I feel like 5e handles long rests, it makes healing magic feel comparatively useless. It makes injury meaningless. It removes any sense of endurance-based adventure. And since most DMs are only running 1 to 2 fights per day, I think that that's making this problem a little bit worse, that we have to force the 4, 5, 6 combats in a day to give us that more marathon-y feel and reward the usefulness of slowing down on using your spell slots and your bigger abilities. I want to know, how do you all build realism into your games? Do you try to make fixes? Are you doing anything that kind of twists this around? Or do you run D&D as is and you think it works totally fine? I'd love to hear what you're doing, how you're wrestling with this, but that is my biggest hot take for D&D.
Oh, hey, Sunsiders! Enjoying the maze so far? Yeah? What maze? Why, the Hedge Maze of the Crescent Queen! A puzzling, mystical adventure for 5e. So the Crescent Queen's a big fairy lady in charge of the moon when it's a crescent, right? When it's waxing, she's in a good mood and throws parties and stuff. When it's waning, She's in a bad mood and throws people in to watch them struggle for their lives. Since you don't already know this, you must have fallen prey to the Lostness. You see, the Lostness is an enchantment that steals your memories every time you fall asleep here. There's a lot of special monsters trying to kill you along the way. But if you stay here too long, the Lostness is going to squeeze your brain dry until you're all like, "Who are you? Where am I? Why am I holding this thing?" Classic wanderers. But it's not all bad. There's a bunch of shrewd NPCs who'd be more than willing to crack a deal to get you out of here, and this adventure makes it easy to get inside their heads with role-playing suggestions, combat notes, guidelines on deals, and whether or not they'll stab you in the back afterwards. I don't know what an NPC is or any of that. I just say some pretty crazy shit when I smoke the local fungi that you find in the back of the book, along with a bunch of other items. Well, it was good talking to you, but I gotta get back to work or my boss will turn me into a bush. But seriously, throw some gold our way. If the Crescent Queen gets more funding than she needs, she'll throw in a bunch of extra goodies. The walls of the Hedge Maze are endless, and so too is the fun you and your friends will have in this whimsical, fae-themed adventure. Not again.